Okay, I think I just got the Senior 630 going. Finally got a good stitch. I pulled out a bunch of stitches. I don't know if there's enough light to see. Yeah, you can see like I ran a few stitches and I was like, oh no, crap. The selector's not moving. But I noticed there's, with the little bit that did catch, I was like, there's not enough tension on the bottom. And I'm like, well, it's not hooking on the bottom. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, well, is it too loose? I was like, man, it seemed kind of loose, this whole case. And I got a gauge, and I'm like, man, what it's supposed to be? It's supposed to be like point 0.03. So I'm like, spacing wise, it seemed okay. Oops. In between there, that gap seemed okay. I was like, I guess it's not too loose. So I'm like, well, what's the deal? So I looked. I thought it was clean when I looked before. I thought I went through and cleaned, but I didn't. That was really rusty. So I dental picked, actually the scraper one, not the wire. Scraped a bunch of rust off there, that little spot, I should say. And cleaned around and more. And then I took the little pick, and I missed a bunch. I picked a bunch out. Of course, that Q-tip is only, and I threw away, I think, 2 other Q-tips for cleaning the rust out, picking all that rust out. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff in the way. Now the thread's catching. Now I'm going to run through some test stitches, but it looks like the first one I just did, other than I didn't really complete, do a reverse stitch, kind of pulled it out. I think it's okay. I think the tension's even alright at 5. I'll pause and continue different stitches. Okay, I need to read into this more. So I must have had some stitch length setting that up there it was doing at short distance a straight stitch. Ever since then, I'm finding that I thought it says A and K and then 3 for your straight stitch, which seems odd to me. It seems like the width, you'd have 1 for a straight stitch, not 3. But I started looking and I noticed before, this is stitch width, I was getting movement with that needle. The needle's not centered. So I'm like just kind of randomly selecting, and I go back to A, back to K, pushed in, it seems centered, and then when it pops out, oops, pushed in, centered, correct, but then when I release, the offset to the right. So something's still wonky in the mechanisms. I may need to get in there with a brush, clean out a little more aggressively now that I've got under the light. I really just oiled and wiped. I didn't really get in with a brush. I found the service manual. Service manual says to brush. So I'm going to get in there and clean a little more because hopefully nothing's loose either. That's, I think the main issue now is, it's not the issue with catching thread, it's the issue with maintaining whatever that stitch selection is, or if I want a straight or a zigzag, because it looks like it starts going straight. I've been pulling out stitches because it sort of does some and then it stops, but I haven't had, this is kind of an example of, was doing straight and then I did the stitch length down to the biggest selection, or all the way down I should say, and then all of a sudden it started doing zigzag on me. So I'm like, stitch length should have nothing to do with switching over to do zigzag on me. But, and you can see that transition too, where it looks like, I think it was doing straight and then it went zigzag. So something's still funky with the stitch selection. I don't know, it's just maybe one of those issues, probably a more complicated mechanism, but I'm going to let it be at that. And I'll disassemble. Take care, be safe, and until next time, learn something new.